Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and Mr. Pate. As I pull this up, I would like to just say that tonight is going to be a very brief presentation, but it is also information about the fine work the men and women sitting over my left shoulder do every day. Both the sworn and the support staff are here in support of this. Many of them are working the street. Some of them changed their schedules to be here, and some of them are probably on their time off, but it's very much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Pate. I'm pleased to provide you with a brief presentation of the Police Department's annual report for 2022. The purpose of this report is to help you and our viewers better understand crime in Manassas, our crime trends in context with the region, and to highlight the work we do every day to keep the city safe. In addition, it provides the necessary analysis to help the police department focus on goals and objectives, customized unique enforcement programs and initiatives with the changing demographics and crime priorities in the city. Each of you have been provided a full copy of the report, and it will be posted on our webpage by tomorrow morning. My presentation will not be an overview. It will be an overview and not a page-by-page review. Keeping that in mind, I will begin with a visual of how our strategic planning is developed in conjunction with the city's overall strategic plan, the budget, with staff and our citizens. Our primary mission continues to be the prevention of crime while maintaining the excellent level of police services our residents and businesses have come to expect. When developing this strategic plan and goals, I ask 4 questions. Where are we now? Where do we want to be in 1, 3, and 5 years? How will we get there, or the plan? And how will we know when we get there, or the performance measures? Next are the goals and objectives. Out of that strategic plan and questions is the analysis of the 2022 citizen survey conducted by the city manager. With that, we developed 5 primary goals and objectives with performance measures that focus both internally and externally. I'd be remiss if I did not recognize those retirees who served our community in the past year. That was Lieutenant Bisick, Sergeant Mishu, and Officer Tabitha Pavlock. But with those retirements come opportunities for other people to move up in the organization. This past year, we promoted 2 captains, 4 lieutenants, and 6 sergeants. A lot. I lost track. We try to recognize staff in front of you and our residents at every opportunity to demonstrate and share the commitment to our community and the work they do. We appreciate the fact that you allow us to do this at council meetings and through the Prince William County Chamber of Commerce Valor Awards. I'm also pleased to announce this year's Employee of the Year, Officer Ethan Eustace, and the Field Training Officer of the Year, Officer Warren Lane. There will be additional recognition for these 2 officers in the future at a council meeting. Moving on, and on page 13 of the full report, we begin with this crime statistical data. This page is there for your and our community's quick reference and comparisons guide. On page 14 of the full report is the crime table. And as you can see, the crime per 1,000 persons increased from 20 to 25 crimes per person. Although crime did rise, I want to point out it is due to crimes mostly against property, not violent crimes against people. Specifically, simple assaults, larcenies, and auto thefts are the big ones. Like many other jurisdictions, we have been hit hard with catalytic converter thefts and thefts in general. Next on this slide provides a more detail how Part 1 crimes are tracked and analyzed. And as you can see, larceny accounts for 78% of Part 1 crimes. It's a big number. Next is what I refer to as the quality of life offenses. These are your domestics, your mental health, and drug overdose calls. As you can see, our mental health calls decreased by 13%, but the type of calls we are going to and are dealing with are lasting much longer. Many last well over 24 hours a day while we wait for mental health professionals and bed space to open up. I do believe one of the reasons the calls have decreased is because of the Marcus Alert or the 988 program and society has become more aware, and they are getting assistance before needing law enforcement's help on those. That's a big move for us. Next is the opiate overdoses decreased by 26%, and we had 5 less fatal overdoses, and we continue to carry Narcan and educate our community on the danger of opiates. We spoke more about that at our council retreat. Next is results of our parking enforcement, which, as you just stated, is a hot topic in our community. Statistically, we did not see an increase in the overall parking offenses, but we did see a 10% increase in the parking zone offenses. I have also included DUI arrests in this section with a 22% increase. I attribute this to a more aggressive enforcement action by our staff. This slide represents the calls for service and shows an 11% decrease for the total calls for service. Officer-initiated calls for service decreased by 4%, while citizen-initiated calls increased by 11%. What this means is officers had less non-directed or proactive time to get involved in calls or situations prior to the citizens calling. That is something we like to watch every year, and we focus on. We pride ourselves on being proactive and not reactive. Next is how we measure our response time to our citizens. We measure dispatcher and officer response times. Priority 1 calls rose to 3 minutes and 54 seconds, and we prefer to be around 3 minutes. However, we're still well below the national average, which ranges between 5 and 7 minutes. Arrest data is next. There was a 40% increase in arrest and a 40% increase in the number of charges placed. 34% of all arrests were related to drugs and alcohol. This information is broken out in detail on page 21 of the full report. Moving on is traffic enforcement data. Traffic enforcement remains the #1 request that I received from our residents, and it was identified as a priority in the 2022 Citizen Satisfaction Survey. We have made it a priority to respond to our citizens' request, and with that came a 36% increase in the number of citations actually issued by officers. In addition to officer enforcement, we implemented a photo red light enforcement program. We have 3 active intersections: Liberia and 28, Liberia and Euclid, and Liberia and Signal Hill. We processed 23,700 citations for those 3 locations. I would like to point out that we also partner with Manassas City Schools with a bus stop arm photo enforcement program. That is a mouthful. We processed 1,884 of those violations. As you are aware, we're also moving forward with a speed photo enforcement in school zones. We anticipate that program to be up and running here in the spring of 2023. Directly related to these enforcement actions is the accident data. We have seen a 35% decrease in accidents. I correlate this directly to the enforcement actions taken by both the officers and the photo red light enforcement programs. Program was successful, as we predicted, of reducing the number of accidents, which is what we were looking for. The next slide provides you with information about our animal control unit and our shelter and adoption center. You and our community should be very proud of this unit. They are extremely busy but successful in their response to animal calls, their adoption rates, and the inspection results conducted by the state, all well above the national and the state averages. Beginning on page 26 of the full report is what I refer to as the 24th Century Policing Principles section. You and the community have been should be very proud of this section. This is part of the transparency that we demonstrate, and well before the General Assembly required this data to be captured, CALEA, or our accreditation process, required it. So we had been doing it for years. Publishing this data builds trust with our community and shows we are being fair and impartial. Continuing with the transparency theme, this is the use of force data table. This section is the full explanation of how we capture and track more information than is needed received high praise from our community last year, specifically the explanations of how we capture this data and what we do with it, captured on pages 26 through 28 of the full report. The next few slides are the result of the 2022 City Manager Citizen Satisfaction Survey. As I mentioned at the beginning, we tie these results into our goals and objectives and the results in the statistical data for enforcement actions. We are rated well above the national average, but there's always room for improvement. We will always keep our community engagement at the forefront so we can respond to their needs and their desires. The final page speaks about CALIA and the importance of accreditation to modern, professional, and fair and impartial policing. Focusing on community policing, the importance of diversity in policing and the standards we must adhere to if we want to ensure we treat people with dignity and respect. The chart on this page shows the demographics of sworn officers in the police department. We continue to make great strides in our diversity, both in gender and ethnicity. I want to point out our female population percentage is one of the highest in the nation at 23%. You and our community and our staff should be proud of that fact as well. We highlight our community engagement and relationship building in the community. I do believe our focus on creating a place our employees want to work has helped. Again, our place stands for professionalism, leadership, acceptance, community, and engagement. The new public safety facility is a state-of-the-art building, and it shows you're committed to public safety for our community and to our staff. It will be and should be a bright spot for us all. We are committed to you and our community, and we're always looking for ways to engage and improve our community relationships. Programs such as the Parenting E3 series, our Community Vitality Officers, the Community Resource Officer Program, the School Resource Officer programs in the school, and the work our officers do every day to make us better and our community safer. Finally, I will celebrate 13 years as your Chief of Police in May. I'm proud of the accomplishments we continue to share as an organization in the midst of continued challenging times. As an agency, we have achieved the highest level possible within national accreditation or the CALIA process, had high ratings in the manager's community survey. I want to thank the staff for their tireless efforts, hard work, professionalism, and support of me and the initiatives I continue to bring forward as the chief. I still believe we are fortunate at a time when communities continue to struggle with their relationships with law enforcement. We continue to receive support from ours. This cannot and should not go unnoticed. By practicing and embracing fair and impartial policing and setting high professional standards, we'll continue to build these relationships and market our place as a place others want to come. However, we must remain competitive in our salary and benefits, and I know that's been on the top of your pages and the city managers as we move forward in the budgeting process. With that, I stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate your report. Council members, any comments or questions? Vice Mayor Sylvester.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Chief. I'm always interested in what you have to tell us about what's going on in the police department. You have very busy people, very busy things going on. So thank you for everything. Brief question is, how many vacancies, FTEs, are you down at the current moment?
Actually, vacancies, we are down, I believe we're at 2. So we have 2 officers that graduated the academy in December. They should be released to the, as I call it, out to their citizens in response by June. We have 5 in the academy right now. They'll graduate in June and hopefully be released from the field training in October. But I believe we have 2 actual vacancies as we speak.
So beyond those that are in the academy, 2
actual vacancies.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And obviously, the Chief Mills coming up later. Reiterate, you know, the work y'all and our friends in Fire and Rescue do to enable this council to sleep at night. But specifically, three slides stood out for me. Number one was the decline in calls and service. I don't ever remember seeing that. So is there a reason?
Yeah, so it's the officer-initiated calls.
Okay.
So they are busy taking the calls from our citizens that are tying up their time, so they do not have free or proactive time to go out and generate those calls on their own. That was a very large number the last few years because we focused on being proactive. So as that number reduced, it drastically reduced the number of calls for service.
Okay.
We track everything they go to.
Okay, very good. The second piece would be going back to the community survey, and specifically the items with regard to enforcement,
Yes.
driving enforcement. And the citizens have continually told us this is a hot button. And the data shows, A, we're putting more and more efforts into it in terms of number of citations, arrests, and B, that we're getting results on the backside in terms of reduced accidents. So I was just going to suggest to Mr. Pate, Ms. Prince, we might want to really make strides to publicize that with the community so that they're aware that the efforts we put in, that y'all have done, not we, y'all have done, you know, are actually having results.
That's a great idea, and what we'll focus on is getting public information, public service announcement out about specifically the photo red light, and the reduction of accidents at those locations is very huge.
Yeah, and finally, I'll close with this, but 1,800 cases of people running the red lights of a school bus?
School bus.
That's just stupefying. It's just beyond me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's better than it was.
Any other comments? Ms. Ellis?
Yeah, great report. You know, the thing that always stands out the most is your Commission of Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, CALEA, and that you're on track to meet all your 484 standards. You know, to me, that is extremely important, that we have an accredited, a nationally accredited police force. It shows that we're meeting all the marks that we need to do, you know, that we're required to do for that designation. So I want to congratulate, that's very difficult to get that. How many years have we had that consistently? Do you know that?
Fully 100%? Melissa, you still here? How many years? 17 years.
17 years, another great media story. And I'm glad to see that we have 23% women. That sounds like also a great statistic, and that you're doing such great work. And thank you so much for putting yourself on the line every day for the safety of our communities. Thank you.
I saw it. Mr.
You
Osima.
know what I was
knew
going to
it.
say.
I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, thanks to you, Chief, the folks that are here, and more importantly, all the folks that are out working right now, or
Yes, sir.
will be working other shifts along the way here. I take it you're well on your way into moving into the public safety building?
Yes, sir. All of the sworn staff is there. The only section that's not there is our Public Safety Communications Center. Hopefully by April. It's a supply chain issue, waiting on some subcontractors in Motorola to get some electronics in place.
Understood on that. And I do appreciate the fact that you every year provide the statistics, are willing to show the good and the bad, where things go up, go down, and because that's the only way we know what's really taking place in our community. To follow Councilman Wolf here, I'll just point out one of my ongoing concerns. I was delighted to see there's been a 13% decrease in mental health related calls, and including a 26% decrease in opiate related overdose calls. That's quite a reduction there, given the fact of all the fentanyl that cases we're hearing about elsewhere. For that to occur here in the Manassas is quite an achievement, and I'm pleased that that's the case here. And I hope we can keep that one as one we definitely want to keep moving down. So thank you to all the men and women.
We'll continue to try to educate our community, especially the parents, on the dangers of opiates and those drugs that are in the house, and to build on your question and Councilman Wolf's statement is, I talked a little bit about the mental health and the calls that we are on. So you talk about calls for service, or if one or two officers are at the hospital for 2 or 3 days straight sitting with a mental health patient, that's taking them off the street to respond for calls for service or to be proactive. So it's all tied in together.
Thank you.
Ms. Vasquez Luna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Chief. Thank you for the report. I appreciate everybody that is here. I want to speak a little bit more of my experience. I appreciate, all the officers and the hard work that they do. I commend them for everything they did when we had the call to the schools. For some parents, remind them what happened a couple of years ago back in Round. And I know it was different, but I want to say, thank you for the support, the way they work with the parents and also the school bus drivers that were trying to get to the bus too. But I appreciate the follow-up on that too. And congratulations to the Employee of the Year and also the Field Training Officer. I'm sure it's difficult to get. It must be very competitive. But I want to make sure that I do a shout out to them. Again, thank you for having a police department that is open, that is ready to have a dialogue with anybody and with the community. And I have the pleasure of meeting some of them. And the last thing, thanks for the walk through the building. It is a building which we all should be proud, and it's going to. I pray that it's going to make it, once everybody is in there, it's going to make it easier and better for everybody to perform their duties. So, thank you.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and I agree with you. I'm truly blessed as the chief. I have a great staff, and the accreditation process and community policing is embedded into the agency now, and they all know that, and they stick with it, and they believe in it.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for the fine report. I agree with Councilman Messina, and that the pluses and the minuses were shown. And what that underscores, we sound like a broken record whenever we talk about our police department, because we have a very fine chief, but we have some of the finest officers around, really. I haven't been in every jurisdiction, but I would dare say they would rank very high in their dedication and so forth. Again, that's underscored by your report. Your report hid nothing, and it shows the success. So just once again, I'll speak for the council in this one. We're all very proud of the force, and I ask the fellow officers, First Tech, to convey our thank yous to your partners that's working hard as we speak. And thank you, Chief, for your guidance.
Thank you for the kind words, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Well, I love y'all. So thank you all for what you do for us and being in the community and present when there isn't trouble. You're in the community. And that's what's important, that especially our children see you as friends and know that they can come to and trust the officers with the climate of today and how everything is, to be able to recruit and promote and move people around and bring people in. It's hard because people don't want to do that anymore. So I think we have it really good here. As I've said before, when I go to conferences and I hear the stories about other jurisdictions and how bad it is, I'm like, I'm just going to sit here and be quiet. But we have it really good here, and I know that it starts at the top. Everything starts at the top. I mean, I know that. But it's great to hear compliments about your hard work and what you do here in the city. It goes not unnoticed at all, and I certainly appreciate it. Y'all know I roll up on y'all at any time. I'll just be out and I'll see yellow tape and roll up, like, because I feel that safe. I mean, that's just me though. I'm nosy. So, but you tolerate it, and it's because I care. And they're just like, she's showing up again, and I get it. And they're like, ma'am, can you stand back? But it's like, I want to know what's going on. So I kind of, when the bomb threat came, and I want to go back to that a little bit, there were a lot of calls, and people were calling council, and they were calling me, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. You have to be calm. We're handling it. Chief is working with superintendent. Talk a little bit about how that whole, like, when that happens, what happens, so that people just sort of know what to expect and what kind of goes on with that?
I think the biggest message I have for you and our community, hopefully the superintendent,
Yeah, he
he's
left.
already gone, is you said you went to conferences and the other things you hear. You know, just a few years ago, other jurisdictions were taking police out of their schools, and at that time, we were adding police to our schools, not because they were needed, but because it is a true partnership. We work together on our responses, and it's about opening those lines of communication and relationships. And one of the things we've gotten better at, right? We've got to get better at certain things, is that communication of making sure you as elected leaders and Mr. Pate have that information as quickly, because we know you're going to get those phone calls as well. So getting it to you quickly helps us, because it helps keep the community quieted down. So it's about trying to clear out that area, secure the children first, making sure they are safe, and that's not always easy as parents are responding to the school, but you know, first thing on our mind is keeping the children safe and doing our job and letting the parents know that.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you again, Chief.
You're
Appreciate the report. Okay,
That's it.
thanks.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you. All right, that moves us forward to item 4.2, our Fire and Rescue System Annual Report, and I'll call on Chief Mills for that.